Disclaimer: content in this video has been created strictly for educational and investigational purposes. There is no intention to glamorise or endorse criminality or any aspect of crime. The information in this video has been acquired online from publicly available sources.
Greenock's a strange one in the Scottish prison system. It's not quite a local jail, not quite a long-term lockup, and not quite a women's nick. But somehow, it's all three at once. That in itself makes it a bit of a Frankenstein's monster compared to the rest of the jails we've covered. Originally opened in 1910, Greenock Prison was meant to serve the West Coast, taking in a mix of remand and short-term prisoners. Built on the edge of a working-class town famous for its shipyards, the jail sat right in the middle of communities that's been ravaged by poverty, drink and generational trauma. Also Martin Compston's acting. You could say Greenock's always mirrored the struggles of the place it lives in. No offence, Martin. Let's talk layout, right? Because this place is split up like a dodgy nightclub with too many VIP areas. First up, you've got Ailsa Hall. This is where the bulk of the male prisoners go. Your remand cases, short-termers, and folk from the west. Darrock Hall, which is female prisoners. Aye, that's right. Greenock's one of the only two mixed-gender prisons in the country. So already you've got a volatile dynamic in your hands. You've got Bute House for your short-term female offenders or those still waiting trial. And you've got Arran House and Criswell House. These are the crown jewels, reserved for long-term, low-supervision inmates. Criswell in particular is Scotland's national top-end facility. Think of it like a halfway house where lifers get a taste of freedom before they get out the gates for good. And that setup, it's both a blessing and a curse. You see, with all these populations under one roof, young men on remand, women with trauma histories, long-termers trying to keep their age down, Greenock's always been one bad day away from chaos. It's like trying to run three prisons with the budget of half a one. And that's not just me saying it. The 2023 HM inspector at the port was scathing, especially about the state of Ailsa Hall. They said it was unfit for purpose, and I quote, dark, damp, crumbling and overcrowded. Usual for the usual. Toilets shared between 5, leaks, staff shortages, and prisoners locked up for 22 hours a day. It was like they were trying to run a Victorian jail in the 21st century. And surprise, surprise, people were suffering. Reports of mental health deteriorating, delays in through care support, and minimal access to work and education. The inspection team said Greenock's regime was quote-unquote fragile. That's a polite way of saying it's hanging on by a thread. Or a shithole. Greenock takes credit, right? It's trying to punch above its weight. Criswell House is meant to be a beacon for rehabilitation. They're cooking their own meals, wearing their own clays, and attending community placements. The idea is to ease them back into society and stop them from coming back. But all that good work gets undermined when the rest of the jail's crumbling and staff are stretched like a tenner in the bookies. Greenock is like a boat with too many passengers and no enough crew, and a hull full of leaks. It wants to be progressive, but it's anchored by outdated facilities, underfunding and systems that haven't evolved since the 90s. And yet, it needs to exist. There's no alternative in the West that can house women, short-termers, remand cases and long-termers. It's a vital part of the Scottish system, but unless somebody coughs up the cash to overhaul it, it will forever remain a relic. But how long for? Only time will tell. Next up, we're heading even further south to a place older, quieter, but every bit just as interesting. A prison with roots going back to the Great War and a past that's rarely spoken about. Buckle up, soldiers, because this next stop in this tour takes us to the borders in HMP Dumfries. Picture this, right? A bank robber blowing up an ATM to fund a romantic holiday in the Gambia and ending up trying to tunnel out the jail with nothing but lies and cheek. Welcome to HMP Dumfries, the jail where secrets get locked up tighter than the cons. Back in 1863, whilst Queen Victoria was sitting on her throne and folk were still getting jail for nicking a loaf, Dumfries Jail opened its doors to serve the people of Galloway. It was meant to be a local lockup, the kind of place you end up in if you've had one too many at the tavern or you'd nicked a shilling to keep the fire lit. Not I'm talking about 18th century problems. It was built with the old school Victorian touch. 5 main halls, cell blocks made of solid stone, a big imposing gate, and rules that were etched in granite. But the place didn't stay a simple house of correction. No for long anyway. By 1951, Dumfries was converted into a borstal, trying to turn wayward boys into men with a bit of structure and discipline. That experiment didn't last long. By 1965, it transformed again, this time into a young offenders institution. But even that rule changed. Today, HMP Dumfries is taking on a more specialised purpose. Dumfries holds a dual population, right? In one hand, it deals with short-term remand and convicted adult males for the local courts. On the other, it's Scotland's go-to jail for quote-unquote offence-related protection prisoners. That's the fancy term for cons that can't mix with the main population, because usually the nature of their crimes, think sex offenders, grasses or high-risk targets. There's 60 local cons and up to 135 protection cases. Total capacity has been bumped to 222 because, surprise, surprise, overcrowding strikes again. It's a quiet jail, controlled, ordered, but behind the walls, some pure wild characters have passed through it. One of the maddest tales to come out of Dumfries in recent memory involves a man called Russell Snowden. Russell was a seasoned bank robber with a love for explosives and holidays. Could have came for Govan. In 2017, he blew up an ATM in Langholm and walked away with 45 grand in Scottish notes. His explanation? He said, "Oh aye, I sold a car, officer." He sold a motor. Then what did he do? He spent nearly 2 grand to take his missus to the Gambia for a wee romantic break. As you do. The second he landed back in the UK, the police were waiting, slapped the cuffs on him and hauled him off to remand in HMP Dumfries. While inside, Snowden hatched an escape plan. But this wasn't the great escape, it was mere carry-on tunnelling. He got caught, pled guilty to the theft, and the failed breakout and landed a 10 stretch. Judge Lady Dorian summed him up perfectly and said a string of convictions for violence and dishonesty. Dumfries operates 5 residential halls, A, B, C, D and E, plus a B0 basement unit for observation cases. It doesn't have a full segregation wing like the bigger nicks, so if a con is struggling with their mental health or they need to be kept isolated, they're either kept behind their door or moved to what's called a safe cell, or fired off to a bigger jail. But don't be fooled. Dumfries might be small, but it's definitely no soft. Just full of weirdos. In September 2024, the Mental Welfare Condition paid the jail a wee visit to check in on how mental health services were being delivered. And the picture they painted was a bit of a mixed bag. On the bright side, folk praised the Band 6 mental health nurse, described her as brand new, always listening, keys good advice, which is the kind of praise that's rare in a jail report, right? The place also boasts a wellbeing garden, a gym refurb, football pitches, veggie plots, therapeutic sessions, and a decent link between the healthcare staff and the cons. One prisoner even said that this is well better. The prison staff talked to me using my first name. And that might not sound like much, but in jail, being treated like a human is half the battle. But there were complaints. Prisoners said they felt rushed, dismissed, or even ignored by some other members of the mental health team. A big issue that was raised is there was no access to psychological services. Turns out there's no in-house psychologists at Dumfries, which mean cons who were getting help at the last jail hit a brick wall when they landed there. Why? The jail struggles to get anybody that's in psychology because it's that out the road. So as a result, mental health nurses try their best to deliver psychoeducation and emotional support. But even they admit it's no the same as proper one-to-one therapy. The Commission fired off 4 formal recommendations. Number 1, get access to psychologists. Number 2, make care plans easier to access across the board. Number 3, keep regular reviews with proper evaluations. Number 4, sort out risk assessments, especially for those for the Dumfries area. HMP Dumfries is like the country's pressure release valve. It takes in cons other prisons can't deal with. The marked men, the vulnerable ones, the guys that when they last 10 minutes in bar or shots. It's a prison that's trying to balance protection with rehabilitation. But with no in-house psychology and a heavy mental health load, it's like trying to fix a leak with a packet of toilet roll. You see, the truth is, Dumfries is adapted. It's calm, quiet, and if we believe the cons, a bit human. But the calm doesn't last forever, because back up the road, in the capital city itself, there's a prison that's big, bold, and full of contradictions. A place with a past wrapped in history and a future still written in question marks. Next up in Patsy Crime, we're heading to HMP Edinburgh, known to most people as Sockton.
If you want to view this episode in its entirety, then head on over to the Patreon and sign up to the Patter Pro tier. For a small one-off payment, you can watch the full history of the Scottish Prison System podcast.